93 Cobra, 2020 GT500, 03 Cobra. Man, we got some sick cars out here. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. We're back at another racetrack for another event. This is the NMRA Spring Break Shootout. This was me at the beginning of the event, excited to get started because all of the hard work we had done. We put the new transmission in, we put new tires on, we're getting ready to test, and everything was looking to shape up pretty well for a pretty solid event. Unfortunately, forces outside of our control prevented that from happening. Now, if you guys remember in the last video, we put in a face-plated T56 Magnum. Now, the ratio on this transmission was a little bit different than the transmission we pulled out, but we were going to make it work anyway. Also, in addition to the new transmission, we had to buy new tires because the other new tires that I bought, unfortunately, did not meet a DOT requirement for True Street. You have to have a DOT street legal tire to go on the cruise, or they will not let you go on the cruise prior to racing the event. Now, I want to say all this because everyone knows what it's like to prepare for an event. Much more than just preparation, it costs money. This transmission was not cheap. Tires are not cheap. You have the cost of the event. You have the cost of fuel, and then you have your time, right? We have a family. You need time to prepare for the event, time to do these modifications, time to do these upgrades. So that being said, you're heavily invested into these events. So I want to bring that to the forefront here because it's very important to understand how upset it would make someone for your entire event to come crashing down on you, all because of an individual sabotaging your race car or cheating in order to advance themselves. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail here soon, but just know that our event was ruined because someone decided to pull a fuel pump relay in our car. Now, our car makes roughly 1,000 horsepower when it's at the track, so we run 2 pumps. It'll run on 1 pump. However, it's not very safe to run 1 pump on that type of setup, especially when you're under heavy load on the track, and I'll show you what I mean. Now, here's my test pass from the NMRA event. This is the very first pass we made on the new setup. The boost was turned down. We just wanted to see how the transmission would respond to make sure everything with the car was good prior to turning it up for the main event. So let's go ahead and see what happened here. Right? Everything seemed to be good. Everything seemed to be working, right? Well, not exactly. Behind the scenes, there was something happening, and we'll show you the data log to kind of go into detail what exactly happened. All right, so here is the data log from the first pass. Now, I want to point out our target AFR is 11.5 to 1. And if you can see here, the blue line is the actual AFR recorded by the wideband, and the green is the fuel pressure. So naturally, the AFR and the fuel pressure are related. As the fuel pressure is high, 50 psi, AFR is lower, or at least closer than, as close as it should be. And then as the fuel pressure drops here, which now we're dropping to 40 psi, we're dropping down to 36 psi, the AFR is lean. So right here, for example, fuel pressure dropped to 29 pounds. This is an indication that something is wrong, and our first clue as to what was happening. Here again, fuel pressure dropped to 29 pounds, AFR 13 to 1. It was just very sporadic, bouncing around. We saw, look at this, 14.5 to 1 air-fuel ratio towards the top of third, 14.6 to 1 at the top of fourth. I cannot stress to you how dangerous this is. I mean, this right here could have caused damage. And the only saving grace is that we have very little timing in the engine. So this is a representation of what happened on that first pass behind the scenes. Now, sure, the car ran fine, but this was the boost was turned down. All right, everybody. So this is our 1993 Cobra for those that don't know. Now, those that have been with the channel, they've seen the car on the dyno, and the car made 840 rear wheel horsepower on 14 PSI. However, since we've been racing the car and the car's been performing pretty well, we've naturally turned the boost up from time to time. So instead of running 14 PSI, we've been running closer to 17 PSI. So this car could make anywhere between 900 to 1,000 wheel horsepower, depending on the weather and how much boost it's actually pushing. As a result of that, the fuel system in this car uses 2 fuel pumps. They're 2 decapped or devalved. There's no check valve in them. They're 510 Hellcat pumps, essentially. So they wind up being like 535s. So we have twin 535s, and each pump has its own relay and its own fuse. Now, those relays and fuses, the fuses are housed up front, but the relays are actually right here. And I'll show you a picture of that. So here's what happens. We get to the event. The car does good in testing, but the day that we get to the event, it's rained out. We get there early. We're there all day. And then the next morning, we don't test until probably 11:30 in the morning. Everybody's up early. My hatch remains open like this. My hood is open. I'm looking at stuff. I'm a pretty trusting guy. People want to see the car, and that's fine. Well, this is a hard lesson learned. At some point in the morning, someone pulled one of these fuel pump relays. Now, the car will run, the car will drive, no problem. However, as soon as you get into boost, and I'll show you the log, the AFR will go extremely lean when it's under heavy load. So for our test pass, we actually had the car turned down. I pulled boost out of the car because I wanted to see how the face-bladed transmission would work, make sure I hit every gear, this, that, and the other. The test pass went fine. I didn't notice anything. Now, I did log the car, and it's my fault. I did not go back and look at that log. My buddy, who is my tuner, Matt, he unfortunately was busy throughout the day, so he couldn't look at the log until it was already too late. So what happened, once we go on the true street cruise, which is a 30-mile cruise, we come back, and then we go into the lanes for to run 3 back-to-back passes. Now, between the test pass and my first true street pass, I put boost back in it because everything was good with the car. All right, we put the power back in the car. Well, unfortunately, this is how my first pass went. Now, as you can see, the car essentially died. It fell on its face. And I didn't know at the time what had happened. We have a safety turned on in the car where if the oil pressure drops below a certain PSI in the middle of the run, it will slam the throttle body shut and essentially kill power to the motor so it saves the engine. So that's what I thought it was. This is why I revved the car at the top end of the track, because I was looking at the oil pressure. At the time, I didn't notice the fuel pressure, so we went back and looked at the log. Well, I didn't log it that pass, unfortunately, but when we went back and looked at the test pass log, you could see that the car was getting very, very lean, about 13.5 to 1 on the top end of the pull. Mind you, my target AFR is an 11.5 to 1 setting. 13.5 is pushing some luck. Now, had it not been for the soft timing in the car, we really could have hurt something. So this goes beyond just messing with someone's car, which is already infuriating. But to do something like this and potentially cause someone tens of thousands of dollars in parts, cause a potential wreck if the motor were to let go. It's really upsetting to think about. Now I know what a lot of you guys are probably thinking. Hey, these relays, they probably fall out easily, right? And I thought maybe the same thing. Now I have a zip tie here, and it's not to hold them in, it's really for tamper proof. So if I slide this, I'm going to slide this out, right? If this were to fall out, I would be able to take two of my fingers and just pull it out, right? Here's the thing, I can't. You have to wiggle it and pull it at the same time. And this is the one that was out. Same thing with this one. You have to really pull it. I mean, these are in there. These do not just fall out. We did 900 miles and about a dozen passes. You hear it click. Did about 1,000 miles and about a dozen passes on sick week. And we chattered the tires really hard on some of those passes. And did we ever have an issue? No. We had bolts vibrate loose. We had suspension bolts fall out, but never once did we have a fuel pump relay come out. The only logical explanation is while this was up, someone, I mean, it's obvious what this is if you know cars. Someone came by and they pulled this relay. Now, again, I can't tell you how much this infuriates me. For the most part, right, if I mess up at an event, it's my fault. I missed a gear, or I just lost a race, like the car wasn't competitive against the other car. For the first time in a long time, this was not on me. I mean, I kind of do blame myself, because if I would have looked at the log and had the fuel pressure on, I maybe would have noticed it. I would have caught it. I still am upset that I didn't see the relay back here on the floor. So I still carry a fair amount of guilt going into this. However, at the end of the day, we prepared for this event. We spent a ton of money. We spent a ton of time. And at the end of the day, it was just taken from us by someone who took the need to take matters into their own hands and mess with a car that's not theirs. And it could have been completely catastrophic. Now, I'm very grateful that the motor survived. Nothing happened. Like, we completed the event. However, it caused us to miss the top 8 stick shift cars. So the way True Street works is the top 8 stick shift cars from True Street go to a shootout the following day. Well, they take your average of your 3 runs, and that is how you're placed. Well, our first run was a 15-8 because the car died, and it died from going from second to third, and that was it. I couldn't do anything. Our second 2 passes were both back-to-back 960s. That led us with a final average of an 1166, which was 9th place. We were the first alternate to go into the shootout had someone broke. Unfortunately, everybody made it to the beams the next day, and we just did not get a chance to even compete for the stick shift shootout. So moving forward, hard lesson, and I would advise anybody to do this, and some people probably already do. Maybe I was just too trusting. I would not leave your car open if you're not around it, and even if it's just for a minute, I would make sure that you can have the car in your eyesight and this, that, and the other. So I'm really disappointed that there are still people out there that do stuff like this, and unfortunately it was a lot of money and a lot of time and effort wasted because you know, we didn't get to compete like we wanted to. But moving forward, we're just gonna get back to the grind. We take these lessons learned, go into the next event, and hopefully we'll come out swinging and hopefully have at least 1 or 2 victories this year in this race season. So that said, I really wish I could have had a better video to put out, but I'm pretty upset about this one still. Still kind of, I mean, it's been over a week now. The car is still in the trailer. It's not the car's fault. I just haven't really wanted to look at it or think about it. So again, if you guys, you know, thanks everybody for watching. If you guys aren't subscribed, please consider subscribing. If you like the channel, you know, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and let me know what you think in the comments. I'll catch you guys in the next one.